Hi, I am Nikolai Pavlov. I was born in Siberia, and in these videos, I'm going to share with you stories about hunters, animals, survival, and the way people lived in remote parts of Siberia for centuries. All right, let's get into it. The first story is from a place called Yakutia, and it's a real account about one hunter who got attacked by a bear and barely survived. In Siberia, there's a word for that kind of bear. We call it Shatun. So, not long after the COVID lockdowns, my father's old friend Mikhail went into the taiga in early November to trap sable and take some geese. In these videos, I'm going to be referring to the boreal forest as taiga, but essentially it's the same boreal forest as you can find in Alaska, in northern Canada, and Scandinavia. We just call it the taiga. And also, for the sake of authenticity, I'm going to be pronouncing the Russian names in their original form, like Mikhail, not Michael. All right. So Mikhail went to trap sable and take some geese. He only had a small .22 and a 12 gauge shotgun for birds. The trip is going really well. In the first week, he gets 5 or 6 sable, a few squirrels, and some birds. He still has around 10 days left before he has to go back to work, so he decides to stay in the taiga. After the pandemic, he's really glad to be alone in the forest. The days are quiet, right? The work is simple, and he's just enjoying himself. And he's also thinking at this time that if he catches more, then he will be able to have enough fur for hats and even a little extra money before the holidays. His cabin in the taiga is a small place, maybe 4 by 4 meters, which is around 12 feet by 12 feet. And Mikhail and his cousin built that 2 summers ago. So one day around noon, Mikhail comes back from checking traps. He hangs his shotgun on a peg and sits down to fix one of the traps. His hands are cold and the trap is broken, right? So he bends over and works slowly on fixing his trap. At the same time, several ridges away, an old bear is moving through the trees. And this is where the trouble starts. It's a Shatun, a bear that couldn't go to sleep for the winter. By this time, by the middle of November, a bear should already be in its den, hibernating. But once in a while, something goes wrong, right? Maybe the bear is old, maybe it's sick and it didn't put enough fat, maybe it's hurt. Whatever the reason, it keeps wandering around early winter instead of going to sleep. And that kind of bear is dangerous because it's not acting like a normal bear anymore. A healthy bear is cautious, but a Shatun is running on hunger, weakness, and real desperation. So it's skinny, it's grumpy, and it's reckless. It follows smell and it takes risks. So if it finds food, it's not eager to walk away from it. And now this bear smells the cabin. Food and grease attracts it and it goes towards the cabin. So Mikhail is sitting there humming a song to himself, and then he hears some movement coming over in the snow. And he also hears this panting. At first, for a split second, he thinks it could be a dog. Maybe another hunter is passing through and he has a dog, right? And then he looks up and then he sees a bear just coming straight at him. It's a brown bear, right? Because we don't have black bears where I'm from. So it's basically a grizzly. So there's no time to think. He drops the trap and whatever tools he had and just runs for the cabin as fast as he can. When he was younger, Mikhail used to wrestle in high school and in college, so he used to be pretty athletic. Even though he was in his mid 50s, he still had some speed in him. So that saves him now, right? He throws himself inside the cabin and slams the door shut. And then he realizes the worst part. The shotgun is still outside, right? In panic, he just forgot about it. It's still hanging on beside that table. His mouth goes dry. His chest is pounding so hard that he can feel it in his throat. The bear is moving around the cabin, breathing, just like hitting the walls and testing the cabin. And now Mikhail knows exactly what he's dealing with. It's not a normal bear that could bluff and run away. It's a starving Shatun. And he looks around fast, trying to figure out what to do next. And then he sees the window, and the worst thought just hits him. You see, normally a hunting cabin should have either a small window, so nothing could really fit into it, or some sort of protection, maybe like boards or shutters or even spikes. But when Mikhail and his cousin were building the place, his cousin insisted on making the window bigger than Mikhail wanted to. His cousin was saying, "We need more light. You gotta make this place more open, more cozy." Mikhail remembers that summer afternoon very clearly. His cousin was laughing and talking about some Chinese nonsense his wife has gotten into, feng shui or something. It's the idea that the house had to feel open and bright. So they laughed about it and, made the window a little bigger than usual and told themselves that they would come back and reinforce it later. And so that later never came. So this is the situation Mikhail is in. He's trapped inside a small cabin, and a hungry bear is walking outside of it, and he just realizes that that cabin has a big window. Mikhail barely turns from the window before he sees the bear outside of it. The bear sees him too, and it hits the window with one charge. Glass explodes inward. Mikhail stumbles back and falls down, right? Broken glass flies across the room, and the whole cabin just shakes. Then the bear drives its head through the frame and roars. And at that distance, it doesn't even look like a normal animal anymore. It looks wrecked and sick. Its eyes are all red around the edges and cloudy. Its gums are gray, and there's blood around broken yellow teeth. Its nose is twitching as it tries to force itself inside the cabin. And the stench of that bear is just awful: blood, rot, and wet fur. And right then, Mikhail knows that if that frame breaks, the cabin will become a slaughterhouse because there's nowhere for him to hide. So the bear shoves its head and one foreleg through the opening and starts clawing inside, trying to get in. Then its shoulders jam in that frame, and the animal gets stuck for a second. That second saves Mikhail's life. He sees an axe by the stove. He forgot it yesterday. And at that moment, everything just narrows down. No more thoughts, no more panic, just the axe and adrenaline pumping. So he grabs it with both hands and moves forward. The bear is still shoving and grinding against the frame, trying to force its weight inside. The paw that is reaching inside the room is massive. So Mikhail swings at that foreleg. The blade bites deep. The bear lets out this furious roar and jerks backwards. Mikhail pulls the axe back and swings again, this time aiming for the head. But the last second, the bear shifts a little bit, and then the blade hits high and glances off the skull with a crack. Then the other paw lashes out and catches the man's jacket. The cloth tears open across his side and the shoulder, right? The force twists him sideways. If the claws had gone a little bit deeper, they would have opened him up like a can of sardines. By now, there's no time for fear. He really has to act. So he steps in and brings the axe down harder, aiming for the middle of the skull. And this one lands, not clean though, because a bear's skull is thick, but deep enough to matter. And the bear jerks its head, trying to pull free, and Mikhail yanks the axe loose and hits it again. Another blow. So it's boom, boom. Each blow lands with that same heavy, resisting sound, like when you're splitting frozen wood. The bear is now still moving, still jerking around, but not in the same way anymore. The strength is leaving the animal. The head starts to dip, right? And blood is now pouring over the snout and dripping into the floor of the cabin. Then its weight shifts backwards and the bear goes slack. The body pulls back out of the window, the head lolls back, and the legs just move uncontrollably. The bear tries to stagger a couple steps and then it collapses. Mikhail stays inside for a few seconds, bent over and still holding the axe. His legs are weak and his whole body is just trembling and he's shaking so hard that he has to lean against the wall. Then he snaps back out of it and runs outside, grabs his shotgun, walks up to the bear and fires both barrels into it. Boom, boom, just to make sure. Only after that he checks himself. So like his jacket is all torn apart and his arm is a little scratched, but nothing serious. He goes inside the cabin and finds a small bottle of vodka. So he applies some on his cuts and drinks the rest, right, to calm down the nerves. As he stands there in the wreckage, looking at the dead bear and the broken window frame, he remembers his cousin laughing at him that summer. It will be cozy. Trust me, old man, he said. Yeah, so that day was the end of cozy and the end of any type of feng shui nonsense in the Yakut Taiga. And that was the end of it. If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe. I will be sharing more real stories from the Yakut Taiga in the future in this channel. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you later.